Foundation Radio is now an exclusive brand partner with WWEshop.com. Pick up all your favorite new merchandise from Roman Reigns.
Acknowledge me.
Cody Rhodes.
I have to finish the story.
LA Knight.
Let me talk to you.
And more using our exclusive link in the show notes. Click below and show your support today for your favorite WWE superstar at WWEshop.com.
Yeah!
Foundation Radio is brought to you today by the 10th Ward Barbershop, a full-service barbershop offering high-quality haircuts, beard trims, and hot shaves. 10th Ward Barbershop proudly serves the historic Lawrenceville, 10th Ward, and surrounding Pittsburgh areas. I frequent the 10th Ward Barbershop when I swing through the area, and I love Ryan Kane's laser-sharp precision on both my hair and my beard. But you don't have to take my word for it. WWE superstars Finn Balor and Corey Graves frequent 10th Ward Barbershop for their hair and beard needs. The team at 10th Ward accepts walk-ins, and they're fully staffed, but schedules fill up quickly. So the best way to see them is to make an appointment at 10thwardbarbershop.com. That's 10thwardbarbershop.com. And while you're there, make sure you stop and pick up some Silk Panther hair products to keep that hair looking fresh. Schedule your appointment today to see Kane, Jordan, and the rest of the team at 10th Ward Barbershop, and we thank them for sponsoring the program. And welcome everybody to Foundation Radio. My name is Adam Barnard. Thank you again so much for joining me today for episode 100 of this program. I'm so excited to give you this episode, and I couldn't think of a better way to do episode 100 than to bring my friend Mega Ran on the show here today. Sir, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me on the program. It's a pleasure to have you.
Man. Thank you. It's awesome to be here, Adam. I didn't know I get this esteemed honor of being guest 100.
You do. What? You do, sir. Yes.
Pretty cool.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's an honor. It's great to have you here as a fellow Philadelphian. So first things first, we always have to say, as we say in Philadelphia, even when we're at church, we say "Go Birds." So I wanted to give you a good, healthy "Go Birds" to you, sir. I wanted to check in and see how you're feeling after that ridiculous, horrific game from the other night. I wanted to see if you were ready to talk about it. I know it's a little early. The wounds are still fresh. So,
you know what's interesting, because I have a 2-year-old, and so his bedtime is usually at the end of Monday night games. So I don't get to tend to see the end of the game. So I'm always like a little upset. Or I'll let him, if it's an Eagles game, I'll let him stay up a little later to watch it.
Right.
This one, I was like, we're going to bed. I'm going to bed too. Like, we're all going to bed. It was, I was like, we're still in single digits. Yeah, we're going to bed.
It's done. Yeah, we're all done here. Yeah, it's interesting. We had the same reaction when the Phillies were I guess it was in the playoffs, or they were in the playoff contention, or whatever it was, and I can't remember what game it was. We usually go over to the neighbor's house, and they have a big projector in the backyard. It's a whole thing, and kids will stay up late for it. And I was like, no, guys, we're going to bed. I don't want you to watch this atrocious travesty here, because I don't want you to have this memory etched into your head, you know? So, I mean, they always say it's next year, but we're not going to have Jason Kelce next year. Apparently, that's the rumor and innuendo going around now that he's going to retire. So, hopefully things will even out. Maybe Sirianni will stop eating those plant-based cheesesteaks and hopefully coach. But in any event, we're here to talk wrestling. We're here to talk music, sir. I wanted to know, again, a fellow Philadelphian, I saw that you were a special ed teacher at the beginning of your teaching career. Something that's close to my heart. One of my children is on the autism spectrum. So I wanted to talk to you about that. What made you want to go into special education?
Man, I taught at I guess called an alternative school outside of Philadelphia in Langhorne for a long time.
What was the name of the school? That's where I'm from, Bucks County.
Wood Services.
Really? You taught at Wood Services? I am. Yes, yeah. I'm very familiar. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So I used to catch the bus up there before I had a car. And man, it was something. But like you were dealing with like varying levels of all types of things. So like I'd have a class of 6. But, that was the most challenging 6 students you'd ever see.
Right.
but I really loved it, you know, like getting to know these children and like being there for them and just realizing that there's a lot of, especially at Woods, like a lot of parents have written these kids off.
Right.
You know, they send them away to the school. A lot of them just never visit. You know, they kind of stop contact and leave these kids to kind of grow up on a campus without any, like, you know, family. And so you become their family. You know, the teachers, the other staff become these kids like family. And it really, I think, helped to build my passion for teaching special ed, because these are the kids who really need it. They need the extra attention. They need the extra love, you know. And, you know, it wasn't always beautiful. I mean, there were some times where I've been beat up, not beat up, but like attempted to beat up.
Yeah.
Like people, like kids will swing on you. They'll, you know, they'll get very aggressive.
Yeah.
But it's about getting to know these children, you know, because like a lot of times kids have a certain thing that's like, all right, just don't do that thing. You know,
right.
And so it's getting to know them. Like, oh, this kid's gonna love you forever as long as you aren't too close to them. You know what I mean, or something like that.
Right. It's like not wearing.
Don't invade their personal space.
Right. Don't wear the color orange or whatever it is. Like that's my son Daniel. You know, Daniel. We've known that Daniel's been on the spectrum since he was we knew when he was young, right? We knew when he was a baby, and we got the official diagnosis at 2 years old. And unfortunately, there still is, as you know, a stigma that's related to, you know, special needs kids or kids who are on the spectrum or any of those things. And, you know, it's wonderful to see that there's a lot of inclusivity nowadays inside of, you know, the schooling. But it's also like it really is almost like the key to that is making sure you're just following what they're telling you to do. They may not be able to tell you it, but as soon as you know it, it's like that's all you have to do is follow that. But it definitely, I think that's another misnomer too in some aspects, is people saying, oh, well, you know, everything is sunshine and rainbows. And there are some days that are really hard, man. You know, there are some days that are very, very difficult. But no, I wanted to chat with you a little bit about that. And then you moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and you were a middle school teacher. So tell me about that transition before we start talking about music.
Well, yeah, when I first got to Phoenix, the opening at the middle school I went to was for a special needs class. So I wound up teaching a SPED group that was smaller class size. I had like an assistant with me. But what I learned most about that, teaching within a school district, is that we would have meetings every week, like special ed, like staff meetings. And then you would find out that the laws were changing so fast, you know, at this time. A lot of people were still learning. Yeah. You know, all the things that we know now. So seeing it happen in real time where they're like, hey, this thing that we were doing last week is not okay. Like it's not legal anymore. Like, or things like that. Like it's not the way to reach kids. So every week we would have to meet and talk and document results because we were almost building, you know, a curriculum in real time. Right. Because we just didn't know as much as we do now. You know, and we're still learning. Yeah. So it's really interesting to go through that and see that these, you know, laws, parameters, everything. Some of them were just like, all right, well, this doesn't work. Let's not do it. The other ones were like, oh, you can get sued if you do this. You know,
there's serious litigation that'll happen if we do this. We want to stay as far away from this as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So seeing that happen in real time was interesting, to say the least. And also it made it a little like having that extra thing in the back of your mind was kind of tough for me. So just being able to, like, you just want to be the best teacher you can be without thinking about all these other things that are happening. And it's like, it's really difficult, but I really enjoyed it. But at the same time, music was kind of working out for me. And then I took the leap. Yep. And here I am.
I was going to say, it seemed that taking the leap has worked out for you, but I'm a lifelong hip hop fan as well. I want to know, and I tell everybody that I meet the same story the first time I discovered hip hop. And I want to know your story about the discovery of hip hop. What was the genesis for you that made you want to do that, make that music for the rest of your life?
Man, I think I wrote a couple different stories in my book, but I think that the most powerful meeting for me in hip hop was It Takes Two by Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock. Yes. Which like took over the summer for whatever year that came out, maybe 89, 90 or something like that. completely took over and was everywhere we went. I would just keep hearing that beat. Woo, yeah. Woo. And I was just like, what is this? And I remember there was a guy who carried like the Ghetto Blaster boombox on my street, Raymond, and he would walk up and down my block playing this song on repeat on his cassette player. And I was just like, man, the way I feel when I hear this, I got to be a part of this, So honestly, it was that, like, just knowing what the beats could do to you. And from there, moving on into the 90s, it was a 93. I always kind of call a kind of second golden age. People call 88, 89 a golden age. Yeah. But 93, you had, Wu-Tang Clan, Snoop Dogg, Tribe Called Quest. Like, there was Nas. There was so much great stuff happening at the same time. And I just had to be a part of it. So we grabbed all of our friends and we sat on the stoop and we were like, everybody write a rap right now. And we're just like, oh, okay. So we all just tried to write. And I was the worst of the crew by far. It wasn't for me. But wanting to be as good as my friends is what made me keep working at it. Mm-hmm. So I bought a little 4-track recorder. And we'd write a song together and then we'd go our separate ways. The next day I'd come knocking on the door like, look, I got a new song. I got a new rap. Listen, I got a new rap. And they're like, all right, man, like, relax. Like, they weren't even as serious about it as I was, but I just wanted to get better. Like, we were using our vocabulary terms in our songs. We were total nerds. Yeah. But like trying to make the best song we could make. And I just wanted to be as good as those guys because they kind of pushed me. And so, that's where hip hop became like where I fully fell in love with it was in the 90s for sure.
And that's sort of the same for me as well. I remember it was 1995. It was the summer I turned 10 years old and it was Bone Thugs and Harmony. It was the E1999 Eternal album, first of the month. Because I'd been aware of Tupac and the West Coast sound, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, watching MTV and things. But I think it was first of the month, that record, because we were in my grandmother's basement in Prospect Park in Delaware County. My cousin Ryan, who was a couple years older than me, had the record, which we weren't allowed to listen to, but we did anyway on the big stereo in the basement. And I was like, I'm hooked, man. I'm hooked for life, right? So that was like, it became like, then I discovered Nas and I discovered Gangstar and I discovered all these different sounds and all these different things. Big Pun is one of my favorite MCs of all time. And like the first time I heard Capital Punishment, or what's the record he did with, it was Fat Joe, Cool G Rap, and Be Real. I Walk on Water, Spit Fire, and Shit Haagen-Dazs. That's, what's that one? The first time I heard that, I was like, holy shit, like how, like, I can't believe I'm listening to somebody like do this. And it's just, it was incredible. And it's just, it became a passion for me. But I know that your sound is you're what they called it's like there's the nerdcore rap and the chiptune. You're a chiptune DJ. For those who may not be familiar, who are listening to the show and maybe discovering your music for the first time, can you explain what chiptune is and how you got started in that?
Wow. Chiptune is technically, it's using the original sounds that were used for a lot of our favorite 8-bit and 16-bit video games. And then, so what I did was take a lot of those sounds, sample them, reprocess them, and make beats out of them, and then do rap on top of that. Right. So it was me combining my love for video games, comic books, nerdy culture stuff with my love for, classic golden era hip hop. And so, I say it's like Redman meets like Final Fantasy. You know what I mean? It's like taking those cool things that we loved about each of those things. Like our favorite artist would sample from funk, soul, jazz, James Brown. And so in that sense, we borrow from video games of the past, much like they did with their favorite stuff, or maybe with their parents' favorite music and things like that. So that's what it is for me. I love hip hop. Like it's something that has definitely changed my life in so many different ways. And so I wanted to bring something a little different to it, And when I later in life started seeing guys like Lupe Fiasco and things like that, where I was like, oh, now we can see what rap can be. Right. Because, back for a long time growing up in Philly, you had to be the tough guy to make rap music. Yeah. You got to make music about being tough, being cool. What about when you're not the cool guy, you know? And so that's where a lot of my music has kind of come from, that side of things, where it's like, yes, I grew up in a tough neighborhood. However, I didn't have to be that or put on airs, but I could be myself and still make music that hopefully people will relate to. And luckily they have, it's just been able to put my fandoms into my music. And now, like, there's tons of people who can relate to it and understand it, which is really, really dope to see.
I think that's the goal of every artist, though, is to relate to someone who's listening to the music. Especially like you said with hip hop and all types of music, like there's so many different tentacles that come from it, right? And there's so many different things that you can find. So maybe Big Pun isn't what you want to listen to today, but I'm going to find that Megaran record, and I really want to listen to that because that's where I'm at, right? Now, I know another piece of connective tissue we have is the love of professional wrestling. And again, I guess from the genesis of that, where did your love of professional wrestling start? Was there a match? Was there a time? What was it?
It was the Macho Man, Randy Savage. And, being in Philly, it was, like such a big wrestling town growing up. I mean, it's Spectrum and the Civic Center, and there was always events going on. And so even when we didn't have an event, like when the first few Manias were in Atlantic City, they would do closed circuit TV viewings at the Spectrum. And I guess it was it Mania 4 when Savage won the title in the tournament?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So they showed that at the Spectrum, and we just got there and watched it on the big screen. So we're just sitting up looking like this, watching it because we're like and I was so into it. And they sold merch there too. So I got like the Macho Man foam fingers, and I just clearly remember like rooting for Savage the whole time, and riding the subway back home being like, ooh yeah, and that for me was one of my earliest wrestling moments. Saturday mornings, it was Wrestling Challenge, it was Rock and Wrestling, all that stuff, man, was a big part of my upbringing.
It's I always, anytime I talk to any wrestling fan from Philly, I always ask about the Spectrum matches, because that's one of my like core memories in my brain is going to the Spectrum. It was 1993, and it was Razor Ramon versus Macho Man Randy Savage. I believe it was for the Intercontinental Championship, because I think Hogan was champion at the time. And that was the main event. And I will never forget. I mean, we were up in the, higher up seats, but the whole, Razor Ramon was like still to this day, like top 5, right? My favorite, performers of all time. And getting to see him wrestle with the Macho Man, I was just like, oh my God, like I can literally see little 8-year-old me just standing at the freaking stands there, just watching and just being in awe of this guy. So, and it's hard to explain to people when they don't have the knowledge of the Spectrum or how important it was to WWE at the time. It's hard to oversell how cool it was to be involved, even if it, 93 or 83, whenever it was, how important those matches were. And you've been able to kind of parlay the wrestling love and the music love into working in professional wrestling. And I understand that you did the theme music for Xavier Woods after he won the King of the Ring. Tell me about that process, writing that song. What was that like?
Oh man, that was insane. Just an example of how fast things move in WWE. I got a call from Xavier. I think I was just, I don't know, I was so excited when he won it. But I remember he won the King of the Ring like in Saudi, so it was like a different time schedule. Everything was all over the place, and I'm just like, yeah, I was so excited. Like I remember being on tour. I was at a hotel, so I was like checking out of the hotel, but I had my phone on watching the match while I'm checking out. Like, okay, and he won, and I was so excited, and then I turned it off. I was like, all right, I got to get going. We had to drive somewhere. And then right after that, I got a call from him, and he was like, hey, so I think they want to do new music. And I was like, oh man, that's really cool. Like, who are you going to get? Like, what are you going to do, man? And he's like, I was thinking you could write some music. And I'm like, what? Get out of here. And I believe that was on a Saturday. So they were like, yeah, we kind of need this by SmackDown. And SmackDown is Friday. And I'm like, okay, I'll see what I can do. And I'm on the road. So I'm like, oh man, I don't know how much I can do this, but I will never say no. I've learned one thing that you have to be, a mentor of mine always told me, he said, you gotta be a yes man. And I was like, what's that mean? He's like, you gotta say yes. Like nobody wants somebody around them who's like, I don't know how to do that. I can't do it. I can't help you. No, you gotta say yes, I'll get it done. And when an opportunity like that comes, you gotta get it done. So I start writing down some sketches and things. I get home maybe that Tuesday. I have an email in my inbox from a WWE music guy who's like, yeah, you think you can get this done in like a day and a half? And I'm like, oh man, absolutely. So we start writing, and I thought it would be a really cool, like a bit of an homage to Xavier, because he told me about this rapper that he had just met named Sazy, who was one of his favorites. So I said, well, what if we get Sazy to do part of the hook too? I was like, all right, I think this would be cool. So I go to the studio every Wednesday. Like that's just my studio time, where even if I don't have something to do, I'm sitting down, just listening to beats, writing, whatever. So Wednesday I recorded my part, and then I sent the other parts off to Sazy, like, hey, if you could get this done like real fast, I think they want to use it real soon. And he did it. Came back Thursday. That was done. Maybe Friday morning, the WWE guy's like, yeah, you need to sign this contract or whatever. Uh-huh. And I was like, all right. And then sure enough, it was on TV that night. And wow. Like, it was just insane how fast stuff moves in that company, you know? Because it's like, man, didn't you guys plan this? Like, do we know already? Like, come on. Like, maybe they didn't know.
Somebody couldn't have reached out maybe a couple weeks in advance. I could have had this done a little bit earlier.
Talked about this a couple weeks
done this, yeah. That's how
cool. Want a spoiler. Didn't want me to leak it to the dirt sheets, I guess.
So how dope is that to hear your own music though? Because I mean, I'm sure it's cool to hear it like on Spotify and on the radio and things like that. But what is it like to hear your music on SmackDown of all places? You know,
that's unreal. It's unreal. Like, I've been watching wrestling my entire life, never thinking I would be a part of the show. You know, like that's insane to me. Like, a couple years ago, I had a chance to be on stage, like in the ring for a segment where the New Day and the Usos did a rap battle.
Yes.
And and it was hilarious and it was awesome. But they brought me in like kind of early to kind of assist them with some writing stuff and just like give them some tips on how to deliver a few things. And that was really fun. I got to walk the aisle. I got to get in the ring. We got to like really just have fun. And that was a blast. I was in there with a lot of guys who were, you know, kind of indie like heroes now, like Alex Hammerstone was in there, a few other guys. So I really loved doing it. And then like, so that gave me my first taste where I was like, oh man, I'm kind of hooked. I need to figure out a way to get involved with this more. So now I just started writing songs. And it's like, oh, well, what would an interest theme sound like for this person or that person? So now I kind of do that in my spare time, where I just write songs now that maybe could sound like entrance themes or maybe like pay-per-view themes, things like that. And I've been lucky enough that a few of these have been used by a few companies, AEW, ROH, and WWE. So yeah, it's been pretty wild. Like I never would have imagined that, being a fan of this forever, to be a part of it like that is just, it's just wild. You know, hold on to those dreams, kids. Anything can happen.
Always bet on yourself. That's my thing. You take the Cody Rhodes approach. You always bet on yourself, and you're bound to win. May not happen right away, but it's going to happen. So before we get into more of the wrestling talk and more current stuff, because I have some questions about the Rumble, and of course I want to talk about The Rock coming back and the potential WrestleMania plans. When you're in the studio, do you have a process that you do when you write, like, or because I know you said Wednesdays are your studio time? What's your process like when you write and when you create music? Do you have anything special that you do? Is it just you getting in there and vibing with the music? Like, what's the process like for you?
Well, I usually order some food. I get like my favorite meal. It's usually this amazing Vietnamese spot. So I'll get like a banh mi sandwich or something and just kind of vibe out. Like that's me. Those are my, that's all I need. Me and the engineer. And sometimes we just talk for an hour before I even write or record anything. It's just getting me into the right headspace to create, and so I really enjoy that. And there's not a lot of folks that I do have a good amount of folks around me that are musicians or that kind of understand, where I can talk to them about, oh, well, the mix on here and the EQ is this and that, so I can actually talk tech a little bit and talk shop with them. And we can have a really good conversation that gets me into a good headspace. And then I start writing, it's really helped me a lot having that, that time where it's like, no matter what, no matter the day, no matter what I'm going through, this is the time that I'm going to spend working on music, so treating it like a job, has really helped me for sure, because I think creation, like, it's almost the opposite, where it's like, oh, you just want to create whenever you're inspired. Well, maybe, but I'm a father and a husband. I can't just be like, 2 a.m, here it goes. Like, sorry, I'm time to create, so you still got to be considerate to your other duties. So I like having a specific time to create and a specific person to do that with. So I got to shout out my engineer, Felix, because he's awesome.
And I think that is the key. It's like there's a dance that goes along with making the music. I've dabbled in hip hop music myself, and I know some of the fundamentals. I don't rap. I connect people together. I'm friends with some of the guys from the Brown Bag All Stars up in New York. And
Nice.
we did a bunch of records together. And you mentioned about some of the different lyrics, and connecting with different worlds. And the one that sticks out to me all the time is the one Solcon spit on Tri-State Mind State, which is a record we did. Got a killer instinct, so I'm off to pick orchids. And right away I was like, I understood that reference. Like, thank you for speaking to me in a way that like nobody else could, right? But I say that to say, like, talking shop with people, it's unique. Like, there's a unique language that goes along with that. And when you find that right person, you find the person that you can dance with in that regard. I think that takes the music and the creativity to the next level. So it's amazing that you have that process and you're able to continue to create in that level. But I wanted to talk to you because we're both going to be down in Tampa. As you're listening to this, is Tuesday. We'll be in Tampa together on Friday at the Battle Rumble, which we're going to plug in a minute. But I need to know, sir, I want to just get your opinion on who you think is going to go over in this year's Royal Rumble in both the men's and the women's match. I want to know your take.
Man, I can't call it. Like, this year feels more unpredictable than ever. For the most part, in previous years, it's like there's like 2-3 guys or girls where you're like, all right, these are the people. And anyone outside of that would be a total shocker. But man, like, I don't know, dude. I think, okay, I will just say I don't think it's going to be Cody. I will say that. I think that Cody's story is on hold, and I understand it. I think that we just got bigger things going on. I mean, you don't get Dwayne to come off the mountain very often. Right. And when Dwayne is interested in working, you let him work. So, so Cody should understand. So I think it's later for Cody, but, man, I don't know. Like, I wish I could think about it in like a fan's mindset, like I used to. Now I kind of know so much, and it's like, man, we know this happens and this happens, and we know what's going to make the most money at the show. It makes predicting kind of hard for me, because I'm always like, well, this is the better matchup, and this is the, it makes me kind of get real smarky about it, and like I don't like that part of myself. But
well, actually, Dwayne's gate entrance and things like, oh, I don't want to be like this again. I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do that.
I just want to enjoy myself, man. Yeah.
Man, you know what? I want to see. I don't know if it'll happen, but I want to see Gunther win it, and or I saw somebody say something crazy that, comment sections go wild, but apparently Seth Rollins had an injury this past week. And someone said, what if they make the Rumble for Seth's title? And I said,
interesting.
Now I'm listening. That would be interesting. Like, if it's a thing that will keep Seth out, then why not like make the Rumble for his title? And I thought, okay.
That's actually not a bad idea, because if you put Gunther over in the Rumble, you're still protecting him. he gives up the Intercontinental title and then gets the big gold belt 2.0 and then runs crazy with that. That would be interesting, especially if the leg. I mean, the leg injury apparently is legitimate from the match with Jinder. So I'd be curious to see how that would go. I don't disagree with you with the men's rumble. I think, unfortunately, Pastor Cody's story is going to be on hold for a little bit longer. I'm curious though. Do you, as I know, there's been a lot of like talk about, you know, The Rock potentially main eventing the Elimination Chamber. What's your take on that? Do you think they push Rock and Roman in Australia for the big stadium show, or do you think they hold it for night 2 in Philadelphia?
I can't see why they would do that. Like, I can't think of one good reason to do that there. It's an Australian pay-per-view, which is going to sell out anyway. Like, it's a huge deal that they're even in Australia. So I don't think it's going to affect any sort of record-breaking numbers to do it there. I think if you get The Rock, you gotta put him in Mania. Like, why would you not do that? I think that's a night 2 thing for sure. Like, I think that would only make sense to me if, let's say, Cody wins and then you get Cody versus Roman night 1 and then The Rock shows up at the end, like, I'll see you tomorrow, you know?
Right.
Something like that would be cool. But nah, I don't think that's the time to do that match. Not at all. No. Mm-mm. Even if it was like a Saudi pay-per-view, I'd be like, all right, well, those are big money. So maybe.
Yeah, they're going to throw millions of dollars at The Rock to do this match in Saudi Arabia. Like, okay, I could see them doing this then, but Australia.
Right, but not Australia. And like, no disrespect to Australia, but, you know, it's going to be an amazing, you know, sellout hype crowd event, you know, regardless. Yeah. So I don't think you need to do it there.
What about the women's rumble? What do you think? Who do you think is going to take that one?
You know, it's funny. Like, they haven't really talked about it until like Becky had this moment this week, which made me like, oh yeah, you know. And I love that WWE is so good at keeping people apart for long enough. Then when they're together, you're like, hey, I haven't seen this, you know. Yeah. And Becky and Rhea, you're like, oh, I haven't seen this. You're like, they've been there the whole time, but we have not seen this. So I think that instantly makes Becky the favorite, and that's just a matchup that I want to see. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be mad at that, or Bianca. To be honest, I think Bianca and Rhea would also be another huge Mania match. So those are my 2 picks.
I'm kind of leaning in the Bayley camp. I feel like the Damage Control story is going to be a big player as we head into WrestleMania season. I think she's going to end up with Io Sky. I have a feeling that Sasha Banks shows up at the Rumble. I don't know for sure. I just have that strange pit in my gut feeling like, yeah, she's going to be there. And then one last question before we promote the Battle Rumble and before we get into the rapid fire questions. MJF, there's rumor and innuendo his actual contract's up. He may be showing up at the Rumble. What's your take on MJF's potential Rumble appearance?
I don't think so. I think that's baloney, my friend.
It's malarkey, sir. Malarkey.
It's malarkey. It's poppycock. I think MJF is locked up, and and if he's not, that would be the biggest mistake. And this is from a company that's lost Cody and CM Punk. This would be the biggest mistake. Yes, because this is their homegrown star that they would let walk. Like, that is insane. Right. Also, the idea of MJF and WWE doesn't really entice me. You know, he can't really cut promos the way we're used to. He can't really be the scumbag that we're used to in a family-friendly organization. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it'll happen, but I don't think it should happen either. Like, I think he's right where he needs to be. I think AEW is the best place. It's the only place that really could have built him. You know, and I think it's the best place for him to be.
I agree. I think, and I've had this conversation with a couple of folks. Like, I could definitely see MJF being a contender down the line. I think the difference is with this, and I took a little bit of heat for it when I said it, you know, amongst some of my peer groups, but it's like MJF, the character now, doesn't fit within the mold of WWE. He's going to have to change what he does. He can't go out there and call, you know, people fatties and say bullshit on TV. Like, that's just not how it works, right? Like, you have to be able to amend what you're doing for a broader audience. Do I think he can do it? Absolutely. But I think there's going to be time for him to do that. He's also young, right? He's 27, 28 years old. He's got time ahead of him to really fine tune that character. Plus, I want to see him tie up the Devil storyline because there's got to be payback with that in Samoa Joe. So I'm curious to see where it goes. I'm in camp with you, though, as well. I don't see MJF showing up at the Rumble. I think that would be, if he hasn't locked him up already, he will be doing so shortly. And I just think that would be a massive mistake on Tony Khan's part. But what's not going to be a massive mistake, sir, is people coming out to see you in Tampa at the Battle Rumble. Tell everybody where they can get tickets to this. Tell us about the event. And I want you to plug it here so everyone can come out and see us.
Oh, man. The Battle Rumble is a night of hip hop and wrestling by fans of both. We've got teamed up with a bunch of great people in Tampa and beyond and have put together this extravaganza. We're going to have battle rap. We're going to have live performances. We're going to have meet and greets. We're going to have special merch and giveaways. There's going to be beat battles, all types of things happening throughout the night. And it's an all-night event going from 6 to midnight, maybe even later. Who knows? We're going to be partying all night in Tampa. And we got this was kind of the brainchild of a bunch of people at the same time. Like, we were already thinking a lot of these ideas, and then we met each other and we're like, oh, well, let's go. So AJ Francis, DNA, the battle rapper, Kazim, who works with Wally Mania, we were all already talking about doing something. And I was like, well, I already got a venue like booked already. And they're like, let's go, say less. So that's how it all came together. And it's just been, so fun putting this together. And man, we're going to have special guests. I mean, what's a wrestling event without a special run-ins and top secret things happening? Yep. So it's going to be awesome, man. We got live performances. We got some of your favorite wrestler rappers performing, Leo Rush, AJ Francis, Max Caster, a few others. Swerve was supposed to be there, but he just got signed on for the Jericho cruise. So he won't be able to make it, but card subject to change. You know how we do. Yep. So there will be some special guest replacements, but you just got to be there to find out. It's going to be a really fun show. So come on out and meet your favorites and see a show while you're at it.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there. Friends of the show, Cameron Hawkins and Adrian Hernandez, will be there as well. Come and say hi. Tickets are still available. You can go to Mega Ran's social media pages on Twitter, because I'm never going to call it X, so please don't ask me to, friends. And also on Instagram. You can go and find out the information there. It's Battle Rumble, and it's Friday night, correct? That is the 26th of January, correct?
Correct. January 26th, Tampa, Florida, at the Crowbar, the day before the Royal Rumble. So if you get in early and you want something to do that evening, we got you covered.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you, meeting you in person, sir. We're going to take a bunch of selfies as well. Some posts for the gram, as the kids say. I don't know if they do.
Absolutely.
But anyway, but my last thing, I really appreciate you being on the show today. Anytime I have a first-time guest on the show, I ask a bunch of rapid-fire questions about pro wrestling. So if you would entertain me, sir, I have a couple of questions for you when you're ready to start.
I'm ready. Let's go.
All-time favorite wrestling match?
Savage Steamboat.
Solid answer. Solid answer. Favorite WrestleMania?
Ooh, favorite WrestleMania is tough. Gosh, what is my favorite WrestleMania? 25 was pretty hype. I'll say 25.
The worst match of all time?
The worst match of all time?
There's always one that pops into my head, and I made somebody watch, and he was like, yeah, that's right.
Wow. I don't think I've ever even given that a lot of thought. Worst match of all time? Gosh. I don't know.
My go-to is, if it helps, my go-to is always Kennel from Hell. And
God.
Not because of Al Snow or Big Boss Man's, physical work, just the execution of the match itself was...
There was some pretty bad stuff in the Attitude Era.
Let's call it.
I was thinking, what was it? Undertaker and Boss Man's Hell in a Cell where he like lynched him.
Yes.
Like that was a bit much. Like I didn't need to see that.
I remember watching that and being like, the fuck is going on? What is this shit? I didn't ask for this.
It's one of those times where you don't want your parents to walk in on you watching. Like, what the hell are you watching in here?
Is that man being hung from the rafters? Like, no, wait, no, he's Satan. Wait, oh, damn it, this is worse. Yeah.
Oh my God. But the Kennel from Hell was pretty bad.
Yep. Here's another bad one. Worst gimmick of all time.
Ooh, I'm going to say Repo Man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. Favorite wrestling angle?
Oh, favorite wrestling angle. It's got to be Savage and Hogan and Miss Elizabeth.
Mega powers.
You know,
yeah.
The Mega powers, crumbling, I think is such a, like, because it was such long-term, storytelling that like took years to get through. And you were like, oh, but look at this little moment where he touches Miss Elizabeth on the back. Oh, okay. And then you can go back to those moments. Like that's just beautiful storytelling.
Biggest missed opportunity in professional wrestling?
Not putting all the belts on Shelton Benjamin.
That is the right answer, sir. That's the right answer. No one gives Shelton Benjamin enough credit in the ring, but I definitely think they missed an opportunity there with him, at least for a good, proper, like big gold belt run.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He could have easily. And then especially too, I think after watching him with, the Hurt Business, he had everything. I can go on about the Hurt Business because they were fantastic, and I don't know why they stopped doing it. But
so good.
In any event, God, how did they
I
drop that ball?
heard JR say that he said that was the biggest drop ball. He said we kind of wrote him off because we didn't think he could talk, and we really shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, and again, like you like how many years later he's doing these amazing things in the ring, and you're like, how did you guys? I don't know. Seth Rollins or Kenny Omega?
I'm going to say Kenny Omega because he's a video game player.
WWE.
I would love to see those two go at it, though.
Oh, my God. That would be an incredible match. I'm still waiting for I feel like eventually Omega will show up in WWE, even if it's just for a one-off period where he does a WrestleMania run-in. WWE, AEW crossover, does it ever happen?
No.
WCW, and we're talking pre-Russo at the NWO height, or ECW?
You mean like Paul Heyman's ECW?
Yes, not
South Philly ECW.
Yeah, South Philly, like Bingo Hall, 2300 Arena. Yeah.
Oh man, ECW all day.
Yeah, that's the Philly in us. That's the answer I always give too. Yeah. And NWO or DX?
DX.
And the last question, Sting and The Undertaker finally face off. Who goes over?
I think Undertaker has to go over.
Yeah.
Just, especially if it happened like a WrestleMania, I feel like it's got to be Taker.
Yeah.
But man, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it.
Even the face-off now, even if we just got a face-off in the ring after he retires, I'm good with that. So,
that would be great.
Mega Ran, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. This has been an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Tampa and having you back on the show. Where can everybody keep up to date on everything you have going on your socials?
Thank you. I got socials where you can get me at Mega Ran on Twitter. You can get me at Mega_Ran on Instagram. Megaran.com has all my tour dates and things like that. We just announced a tour. I'm going to Morocco next month, so I'm really excited about that. And then going on a cruise with Kevin Smith. It's going to be a lot of interesting, exciting things in Mega Ran land going on right now. So yeah, you can keep up with all that at Mega Ran. Anywhere you get fine social media updates.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time as always. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this episode here because I'm branding out on YouTube as well. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review, and I will see you at the Royal Rumble this week as well. My name is Adam Barnard. Peace. Foundation Radio is hosted, recorded, and produced by Adam Barnard. Additional narration and production is provided by the executive voice, Sam Krepps. Our mixing and engineering was done by Pannell.
Our intro and outro music is performed by Dumb Ugly. Additional musical accompaniment is performed and produced by Enrichment. Our cover art photography was done by Dylan Eddinger. Follow Adam on Instagram and Twitter, or X or whatever, at This Is Goober, and follow the show on Twitter, again, not calling it X, at FND Radio Pod. Find the entire show archive at foundationradio.net. This has been a Butts Carlton Media production, Butts Carlton, proprietor.
That doesn't work for me, brother. Peace, Carl!